Hi guys, today I would like to show you how to set up the Glarry, but really any Stratocaster type guitar. This guitar came set up fairly nicely out of the box, but the strings are way too light for my taste, so I think it could be better. I think by the time we are done it will play much more nicely and it will sound better. So what I want to do today is really the following things, if you can see this. First, I will start with setting up the neck relief, which is basically the curvature of the neck this way. So every guitar neck is curved a little bit this way to allow for the vibration of the strings. I will go for almost flat neck if possible. I don't like my relief to be too big, but that's really a matter of taste. So I will talk about that in more detail in a little bit. The second one will be setting up the tremolo. This type of guitar has a tremolo, they don't all have that, so really this is for the Stratocaster type guitars. And there's some springs in the back, so I'll show you how to take this off. And there's some springs in there that control that, so we will set that up. Basically, you can set this flat to the body or floating. This is where you attach the tremolo arm, and you can make that. It's actually a vibrato in musical terms, so Leo Fender actually named it incorrectly back then. Anyway, it's set up by loosening or tightening some screws back here. And then we will set up the string height, which is also called action, which means the distance of the strings from the frets this way. So typically the lower the action, the easier to play the guitar. The higher the action, the harder to play the guitar. Although most people will tell you that a little bit higher action will give you better sound because it allows the strings to vibrate a little more. And then the last part about the strings will be setting up the intonation, which if you look at this bridge, you can move these little saddles forward, making the string a little shorter, or backward, making the string a little longer, which gives you a higher or lower pitch slightly. And that's really a fine adjustment for the intonation of the guitar. So wherever you play on the neck will be closer to a perfect tune. After that, because it's an electric guitar, we will also have to set the pickup height that is controlled by these screws here. And as you can see, most likely that's done with a Phillips head screwdriver. So very simple. There are some specs that you can get from different websites on how far those pole pieces should be from the strings, but I typically go by ear, so that's where I plug in the guitar and I just set it to where it sounds the best to my ears. The bass and the treble side, they don't have to be the same height. If you want a little more bass, you can put that a little closer to the strings. If you want a little more treble, you can put the treble side closer to the strings. And then I will also look over this guitar and look for some potential issues. Actually, I did plug this guitar in before and I noticed that there's a little bit of a contact problem on this jack input. So I will fix that too, and I want to show you how to do that in case your guitar has that. And by the time we are done with this, this guitar will play really nice and sound really great. You always have to put new strings on. You cannot set up a guitar with the existing strings. You always want new strings. I use, I think these are called medium 10 to 52, I believe. It's a little heavier on the bottom, but it's just my preference. You could use any other string really. But if you're a beginner, I would probably go for a lighter gauge. Let's say, like a 9, maybe even an 8. I will be using the tools that came with the guitar in the box, in this little bag. There's 2 Allen wrenches in there. One for the neck relief, which is set here at the end of the neck, and then the other one is for the saddles. Apart from that, I will need a Phillips head screwdriver, I have a bunch of those, so maybe I pull out the better one. But and then also a wire cutter. This is a really handy tool if you play guitar because it makes changing strings so much faster. If you don't feel comfortable doing these things, you know, you can always ask somebody who's a little more experienced, especially when you do it for the first time. You could ask, you know, a friend or your, you know, one of your parents to help you. And then of course you can always take it to a good tech and they will do this for you. And I typically say that, you know, that's really a good investment eventually. You know, if you really want this to play its and sound its best, I would take it to a tech. But you know, that gets a little pricey with beginner guitars. I think it's totally okay to do it yourself, and honestly it's something that as a guitar player you should learn anyway. You should be able to perform your own basic guitar setup. So let's get started. Step one, I'm going to take the old strings off. I would recommend loosening them. So I just don't want to shock the wood when I then come in with the wire cutter and cut all of them. Okay, then let's take these off. Now for this type of guitar, the way to take out those strings is actually through the back, which you could either do just with the plastic on, and as you can see there's one little opening for each string, but at this point actually I'm just going to take this back cover off. Okay, it's the first time I take this off, so you might see some sawdust there. But that's those are basically the springs that will control the tremolo. Now for my guitars, I actually keep this plastic off because it's just much easier to change strings. So the strings should pop out on this side from those little holes. I'm just going to try to hold this here and push these through. Okay, these are stuck a little bit, so let me grab my pliers. Okay, so my strings are a little stuck in there. That's okay. I'm just gonna use my pliers to push them through from this side. Once you get them going, it should come out pretty easy. So I'll just show you. You just push on it and it will pop out on this side. There it is. You can just grab it. That goes in the trash as well. Okay, the other way to deal with that problem is to find something that's thin enough that can fit inside that hole and it's long enough that you can use to push through. Okay, so all of these are out, and I will actually start with tightening all of the screws on the tremolo. So all of these screws should be nice and flat against the top of this plate, the bridge plate. So I'm just gonna do that real quick. Okay, that's good. And now we are ready for the new strings. Again, it's kind of rip this, but this will, the packaging will give you guidance on which strings go, which string goes where. And I'm just gonna start stringing this up, starting with the thickest one, and hopefully these new ones will not get stuck like the old ones. But so here you wanna put this one through the top one, the E string, the thick E string, and just make sure that you're pushing it through the correct one. You know, just real quick check. You know, obviously pull this all the way through, and then the ball end should nicely fit into that hole, and I can already tell that this comes out much nicer. So it was more an issue with the strings that came from the factory. Okay, so with this one, I'm not gonna worry about the string height or anything else. I want to put the strings on, and then I will worry about all of that. But basically what you want to do is take this string, hold it pretty taut. It's important that you get a good angle going down that way. So I'm going to, you know, maybe err on the side of safety here and clip this 2 posts away from the post that I'm actually using. So this is the E string, A string, D string, and I will clip it at the D string. That should give me enough windings. So I'll try to show you a close up here. Okay, so I basically hold the string with 2 fingers and then use this one to hold it taut. And then I wind it so that it goes under the part that's sticking out. And I just hold it down to make sure that it always goes under. Okay, so we're getting there. And at this point I have a pretty good sense for, you know, when that string is tight enough. Of course you can always check, it's a little deep. You can always, don't worry about the buzzing because that will go away with the other strings, but you can always check your, use your tuner. This is the one that I use, made by Pedersen. But I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Just kind of want to show you that what you want is this kind of situation. Okay, and we can go on to the next one. And for the A string, again, I will follow the same rule. I will go 2 posts over, so that would be D, and then the G string. So I will clip it at the post for the G string, and that should pretty much give me the same number of windings. Actually, before I tighten this, let me show you a little trick. If you have some oil, I have a little bit of machine oil that I use for this purpose. You can add a little bit at all the connections, so I'm just gonna add a little bit at the bridge, and ideally I would do this before I put the strings on, or I can just lift them and add it underneath, and you can add it at the nut as well. I'm just gonna add all of them, you know, just to make sure that I get good lubrication, because that is really important when it comes to a guitar staying in tune. Okay, so I have 2 strings up and similar number of windings. You know, I'm still maintaining a pretty good angle there. And then for the next ones, I don't have to worry about the angle because I have the string trees that will hold them down. So for the D string, I will go to the first one is the G and then the B, so I will clip it around the B. Okay, and let me show you the last one here, which would be the G, because then I pretty much use the same length for clipping these. Let's do 3 posts away. So I'm gonna go from the G string, I will go B, E, and then 1 extra. Last one, the high E string. Now you see why I don't recommend putting the back plate back on. I just have it off on all of my Stratocaster type guitars. After a while, you can just let the string tree be your guide. And we are done. Okay, the next step is to set up the neck relief, and for that we will first want to tune the guitar. This is important because you want to have the actual tension on the neck. Be prepared to go back and forth a little bit at the beginning because it will pull on the tremolo. It's already pulled it off the body a little bit, so might have to do this a few times. Actually, let me grab my better tuner. Now we are ready to set the neck relief. So for that, you will want to have the guitar on your lap in playing position, And if you have a capo, you want to put that on the first fret. The next fret that you want to hold down is the fret where the neck meets the body. So on this guitar is the 17th fret. And that will give you a straight line that is represented by the string here. And you will want to check kind of in the middle here, which would be the 9th fret, and see if there's there should be a little bit of gap between the string and the fret. So I'm just looking at Fender's recommendation here. They say that for a neck radius of 7.25, this would be 0.012 inches or 0.3 millimeters. And for a 9.5, that would be 0.010 inches or 0.25 millimeters. So I believe this guitar is closer to a 9.5. So I'm going to go for that 0.010 inches. If you have these automotive feeler gauges, then you can look for that, either the millimeter or the inches, which would be 0.010 is this one. So I very simply, again, just hold this down at the 17th fret, and you should be able to put that 0.010 inch capo between the fret and the string. And to be honest, that's exactly where my neck is at. So this is perfect. If you don't have the feeler gauge, don't worry. In this position, if you just kind of tap on top of that string at the 9th fret, you should hear if there's a little gap or not. That is the sound of having a little bit of a gap. And that 0.010 inch is really just a little bit. That's what you want to hear. Just tap on it and you'll feel that there's a little bit of a gap. And if it's a little bigger, that's okay too. It's really a matter of taste. You can have a little more neck relief. Okay, so this neck is perfect, but I just want to show you what to do if it was a little too much. So the neck relief is set right here with the larger Allen wrench that comes with the guitar. Okay, so my neck relief is perfectly where I want it to be out of the box, which is pretty impressive, but I just want to show you what would happen if I had to adjust it. So if my curve is too big, that means the gap is more than what I'm shooting for, 0.010 inches, measured at the 9th fret. Then I need to tighten the truss rod. You can access the truss rod from right here through this hole using the Allen wrench that came with the guitar. Okay, now it's nice and tight in there. If you need to tighten the neck, make it straighter under string tension, decreasing that neck relief, you would have to turn it basically clockwise, so tightening that screw. Looking down the neck from above, you want to go clockwise. Turn it this way. When you want to do that, it's actually advisable to loosen the strings because you don't want to work against the string tension. If you want to increase the neck relief, then you will have to loosen the truss rod. So when you look down the neck from above, you will have to go counterclockwise. So I would have to go this way. In that case, you can actually leave the strings under tension because they will help you bend the neck a little more. Never go more than a quarter turn tune the guitar again, check again, and if you're at the correct relief, then stop. Now it's really important to always stop turning the wrench if there is excessive tension. If you need to force it, that means that you need to take the guitar to a qualified tech, because they will be able to fix that for you. But if you apply too much force to this wrench, you might damage the truss rod. And now we will move on to setting up the tremolo. Okay, so like I said before, the strings will pull up this bridge and the springs on the back will counteract that. And my goal would be to have that bridge plate here tight against the top of the body. So all I need to do is tighten those two screws and let that pull the bridge back to the body. You will see a wire right here that is soldered to the that little metal piece. That is the ground on the guitar, and it uses basically all of this assembly as your ground, which should reduce noise when you're playing. So just make sure if you you know, get that wire loose, then you will have to resolder it to the same spot. Okay, quick check on that bridge. We are pretty much flat against the body. So I'm just gonna go with that, and we can move on to setting the string height. Okay, action is set with this Allen wrench that also comes with the guitar. And this should fit right inside every one of these little screws. You can use this little Allen wrench and stick it into these screws. There's two screws on either side of the string. If you want to lower the string action at the 12th fret, which is exactly the halfway point of the string, by, let's say, 1 millimeter, that means that you have to lower it here by 2 millimeters. So that's kind of a rough, you know, good kind of calculation method, but you can also just do it by trial and error, and you know, turn it maybe a half turn at a time. Okay, so here's my 12th fret, and I will stick this 1.5 millimeter Allen wrench between the fret and the string and see how much space I have between them. Okay, so that's a long way to go. I would say there's probably, you know, I have to move this down by at least by this much. Okay, so I'm back at the saddle. Now we use this Allen wrench, stick it into that little screw next to the string, and if I move it counterclockwise, that will lower my saddle. So I'm just gonna go by little, making sure that the saddle is always horizontal. It should be straight, shouldn't be angled at this point, right? Because you want to make sure that the weight is evenly distributed between those two screws. And then I recheck at the 12th fret again, just stick in, and I can go way more. So I'm just gonna, you can do this by trial and error. Just make sure you're moving both, you know, a little bit at a time. Recheck at the 12th fret. Can still go. Just keep checking that it is straight. Still go a little more. Maybe we'll start from there and then tune the string and just make sure that there's no string buzz. That's really where we want to be. Okay, we're getting close. And we are pretty much there, so let me... Okay, quick tuning. Let me recheck. It seems like we can still go a little lower. That's okay. The lower you go, the easier to play the guitar. Okay, right now we are at about Fender spec. 1.6 millimeter. I can still go a little lower. So at this point I'm just gonna do half turns and then recheck. Okay, right now we are at 1.5 millimeters. Here we are back at the 12th fret again. Here's my 1.5 millimeter wrench, and I just stick it in there. It fits exactly, just barely touches the string, so I know that that string height is exactly 1.5 millimeters. And if I just kind of plug the string and then fret it at every fret, getting a little bit of string buzz over there, not too much though. Okay, getting string buzz on that one. And the better your frets, the straighter the neck can be. So because I have that string buzz, I will raise it back up a little bit. So like I said, I'm shooting for the lowest possible action without string buzz. And I will go clockwise, and I will go by maybe quarter turns and recheck, retune, recheck. Okay, little buzz there. A little buzzing there. I think I can go back up at least by a half turn. So I really just want to get a bass line and then work from there. Retune. A little bit of buzz. Still getting the buzz here. Okay. One more half turn. At least. Okay, I have a few higher frets maybe, but I'm still gonna go at least a half turn. We actually do like a 3/4 turn. Retune. Let's do a little bit of buzz. Okay, so let's go one more. Just want to make sure that it's, let's do a half turn. Just kind of go little by little, retune. So that's cured. I get a little bit of buzz. That's the 20th fret. I will probably not use that on the E string, so I'm just gonna go with this. So now we are done with the E string, and I will go through all of the strings and do this little dance with each one of them, and then come back and then we can set the intonation. Okay, so I set up all of the strings to play well. Plays really nicely. One thing that I want to add is, you know, you kind of have to look at the strings, and they should roughly follow the kind of the curve of the neck this way, the radius, that is. So if it's a 9.5, you know, then the strings should kind of follow that. If you lower one, you kind of have to lower the ones next to it and all of the others, right? So there should be some sort of consistency across the neck. Now this guitar plays nice, and it plays kind of nice up and down the neck. It's a little low, but that's fine. And with new strings you will get some string buzz. That's normal. That will go away in a couple of days. But there's another test that I want to do, and this really depends on your style of playing. If you're going to do bends, you will have to adjust for those as well. I typically bend on the top 3 strings, and I want to make sure that I can always bend up, you know, at least one whole note, and you know, for me, preferably 1.5. So I want to at least go from this D to that E, and that should sound clean and nice. And so I'm just gonna go through the neck and bend up all of the notes, starting at the top one, and make sure that they don't die. So you see that there, that dies. This one is bad. This one is bad. I can't bend up from the E to the F sharp. It just dies. It's a dead spot. Same here. And then I can bend that D to the E, so that's good. That already tells me that I need to raise this E string a little bit. So here I will make very small adjustments, and please notice that I'm also in playing position now, so the guitar will behave the way it will behave when I'm actually playing it. So here I will want to raise it, so I'm going to go counterclockwise. And here I really only go a quarter turn. So if I go a quarter turn on one side, I also want to go a quarter turn on the other side. Okay, and retune the string. Okay, so it's back on up to full tension, and I want to make sure that those problems have been resolved. So the biggest one was here at this E. Okay, that's still dead, that spot, so I'm gonna keep going until it's good. So again, I'm just gonna do 1/4 turn. Okay, we are almost there. Don't forget to tune it. I have my little tuner hooked up here. Okay, so that's almost good. I think we can give it one more. 1/4 of a turn clockwise. And recheck. Okay, so that works. Okay, cool. So that is kind of I usually notice that the E string can be a little higher sometimes. You know, for some reason on several of my guitars, that's they have to go a little higher than the rest. And now I'm just gonna kind of go ahead and adjust the rest of the strings accordingly to get that kind of nice and cohesive or consistent feel across the neck, which means I will have to definitely raise the B string a little bit. So I'm just gonna go maybe a 1/2 of a turn. At this point I'm just going by my eyes. And then maybe the G string by 1/4 of a turn. Okay. And then retune. Okay. The intonation is off. Okay, so I think we are good on the bending. Sounds pretty good. So Nice resonant guitar. Sounds pretty good. Okay, so on to the next one. For the intonation, what we will want to do is move these back or forward, making the string effectively shorter or longer. You will need to hook up your tuner. Let me just put that right here. So basically this will show you when a string is in tune, it should stand still pretty much. Okay? Hopefully you can see that there. Now, this string is in tune. Then you can also do the harmonic on at the 12th fret. Okay? This might be moving down a little bit, so let me just adjust a tiny bit there. You want to be as accurate as possible here. Okay? And then you fret that same note at the 12th fret, and that should be the same exact note. Now I can see that the tuner is moving down, which tells me that this note is a little lower. That tells me that I need to make this note a little higher, and that means that I need to make the string a little shorter. So what I need to do is stick my Phillips head screwdriver in here and make it a tad shorter that way, which would be turning it counterclockwise. Now for this one, you know, it's essential that you find a screwdriver that fits exactly in that screw. And the second thing is you want to make sure that you're not messing up the finish on your guitar. So typically when I set this, I actually put a little cloth or towel here as I'm setting it, just to make sure I'm not messing up, because it's really easy to mess up your guitar finish with a metal screwdriver. So here I will always just go little by little. So again, maybe a quarter of a turn. Make sure that's pushing the saddle forward. Now if that note was too high, I would have to make that string a little longer, so I would move it in the opposite direction, and I would turn that screwdriver clockwise. Okay, so I need to tune this up again. Okay, and there it stopped, and then I fret that note. Okay, this is still too low, so I will have to go shorter. Okay. It's still a little flat. I'm just gonna go a tiny bit more, and then I think we can call it a day on that one. And there we are. It stands still, which means it's perfectly in tune. So those two notes are exactly the same, 1 octave apart. And now I'm just going to do that for the rest of the strings. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that this is the kind of the pattern that you typically get. So the E, high E is the farthest out this way, and then the B is a little back, and the G is a little back. And then because the D string is wound, it jumps forward again, and then you see the same kind of pattern towards the low E string. The guitar is really well intonated, so you can kind of play these chords across the neck. And they all sound in tune. So that's the intonation part. And the next thing that we want to do is setting up the pickup height. The pickup height is basically measured from the bottom of the string to the pull piece underneath. When you have to press down at the last fret. You can take some sort of a ruler, could be metric or inches, it doesn't really matter. Let's just do metric on this one. So if I measure this one right now, this is approximately about 3 millimeters. I can do the same on the treble side. This is about 2 millimeters. And then you do that for all three. Now Fender recommends 5/64 of an inch on the bass side, and that is 2 millimeters, and 4/64 of an inch on the treble side, that would be 1.6 millimeters. The way to set the pickup height is by these two screws on the two sides. So you have bass and treble side. If I want to get closer to the string or raise the pickup height, I will have to go clockwise. If I want to lower the pickup, I will have to go counterclockwise. There's springs on the other side of this screw under the pick guard, so you might feel a little bit of resistance there. Okay, I'm pretty close to the factory spec here. I actually have to go back a little bit. You don't want to get too close either, because then the magnet might start pulling on the string. That's not a good thing either. Okay, so maybe back this off a little bit. As you can tell, the treble side is typically a little up higher. Then I also always want to test it with an amplifier. And then you just play some chords and just listen to determine if you like the sound. Of course, you can add more bass by setting this up higher, or add more treble by setting this side up higher. You can play with that balance a little bit. A lot of people actually like to lower their Strat pickups and then just turn their amplifier up a little higher. So it's really a matter of taste. I would really recommend that you experiment with it a little bit. Now, of course, you will want to do that for all three pickups. Then the last thing I wanted to show you guys is that with this particular guitar, the input jack is a little loose. If I turn this amp back on, and if I wiggle this jack a little bit, I get all sorts of weird noises from the amplifier. So I want to show you how to tighten that up real quick. It has two screws that keep it in place, so you can just unscrew those. So it's just a standard jack socket. When you take your guitar cable and plug it in, that's the little lip, it's a little connector that will keep it in place. So what we want to do here really is, if that is a little loose, you can literally just take your finger, get some leverage, and gently, very gently, don't break it, but you can bend it in a little bit, just make it tighter. And now if I plug this in, it's beautiful, nice and tight. And let me just show you a little trick here. When you put in any wood screw, you put it back to where it was, you can start going in the counterclockwise position. Just gently, don't push down. And you can hear it, it clicks when the screw finds its old position, its old thread. And that way you can make sure that you know, over time you don't wear out those screw holes, which happened to so many of my old guitars when I was younger. Okay, so counterclockwise, just let the screwdriver and its weight bear down on it. You hear that click, and that's when you start driving it in. And then also driving it in should be a breeze, because it's going right into the same position, same thread where it was. A little fix here should give us a nice and secure connection. Took a little longer than I thought, but it was well worth my time. I think I ended up with a much better playing and better sounding guitar. You can take a $100 guitar, spend a little bit of time, and set it up well, and you will turn it into something better. I'm really enjoying it. It has a nice sound.